Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to go. So if you would, before I get into my introduction, if you would just indulge me with my little story. So when I was of the age, and this was before Hawks age, that I had a fever for sports, as I think many of us have here. And so on Sunday, my grandfather had a field about the quarter size of a football field. We owned one helmet and a football. And on Sunday afternoon, after Sunday school, most of my Sunday school friends would come by bike or being dropped off, and we would have tackle football on Sunday afternoon. Halftime, we walked across the street to Square Deal and got a soda, and the game was over when my mother called me and said dinner was ready. And it was just a wonderful experience. And then on Monday morning, you'd wake up, and I ached all over, and it felt wonderful. So anyway, and I thought, since we've had this conversation, with Frank about bringing this message to light, is that what a thrill it would have been for me to actually been in the era of the Hawks. So this was in like the late 40s. So anyway, that's my indulgence. I wanted to tell that story. We're here tonight to honor the Hammonton Hawks, and to honor the people have made it possible, the men and women of the organization that work tirelessly and to accomplish what they do, and for the youth of Hammonton and for the Hammonton and for Hammonton itself. So. And the speaker for tonight, and he is symbolic of all of the gentlemen and ladies, perhaps, that give up their evenings to work and on the behalf of all of us. So a little bit about Frank. So my colleague in this business, Deb, she sends out information sheet to all of our speakers, and it asked all the information that we could use for an introduction. This is going to go into the Gazette and so forth like that. And she got it back from Frank, and there were two words on it: Frank LaSasso. That was it. So I didn't stop with his modesty, and so I searched further, and I have some information I want to share with you tonight.
I probably didn't send it back right.
So when Frank was age 10, he traveled with his bicycle down to the Little Big League field, where he spent his summers lining the softball fields. That was when he was age 10, and he never left. He never left. And so he has spent 46 years since then doing all that he could for the youth at every turn. Member of the board, member or coach of the Hawks for 46 years. Assistant coach with 5 championship teams. In 1983, led the Little Big League to state finals and multiple district championships. Football coach at St. Joe's from 1989 to 1997 with seven state championships. Football coach at Hammonton High from 2004 to present. Baseball from 05 to 2017. Softball, it just goes on and on. 14 sectional champions, St. Joe's, Cape Polani Championship, Hall of Fame, and he appears in both the Hammonton and St. Joe's Hall of Fame.
That's my father.
Oh, okay. So anyway, with that, it's a great pleasure to introduce to you Frank LaSasso.
Thank you. like?
It's up to you.
Can you hear me? All right. I just found something that I thought was really interesting. I've been battling around for the last 48 hours of what to say. But at our last thing, Dan Russelman wrote something in the newspaper. He said, when you play for the Hawks, you play for a family. And like family, each generation gives something back to the next. You look at the football field, he said at the Lake Park, because that's where we were, and now we'll say at William T. Capella, and you'll see fathers passing on tradition of Hawks football to their sons, traditions they learned from their fathers. Almost everyone involved with the Hawks has been part of an organization for most of their lives, beginning with the first team in 1959. And that's certainly true to this day. To become strong, the Hawks have needed hard work and dedication of many volunteers. No one involved at the Hawks has paid for their time. They lend their time and experience every day to help young athletes learn about the game of football and the importance of the role it plays in the community. The Hawks' strength is in its volunteers. Fathers who coach and run the team, as well as maintain the fields, the mothers who look after the players, organizing fundraisers, and working the concession stand. And our ex-president, Russ Dustman, was quoted as saying, "We would be nowhere without everyone who donates their time and efforts." All right, so that's still true today. That was 15 years ago. Dan wrote it. Dan couldn't be here tonight because his daughter is conducting her last concert up in Millville. We're here to talk about the history of a great organization, one that was founded in 1959. The Hawks were a new member of the Atlantic County Junior Football League that was in existence for 2 years before. The original founding officers were Mr. Richardson, Frank Emilio, Jim Ferranto Sr., John Perone, and Matt Kazar. Pete Carnicel, the Undertaker, was also very instrumental in starting the Hawks. Lou Ruberton was the first varsity coach. Matt Kazar was the JV coach. And that was in 59, and I played JV probably 69, 70, and Matt was also my coach. First year the Hawks were 2-7. They won their first game. They won it down in Chelsea. So that was a good start for their organization. They were advertising for help covering the costs of the initial fees because they had no equipment. And there's some equipment over there. The one helmet with the stars was a helmet you bought in Rice Hardware. I think I paid $12 for it. The shoulder pads, the old ones, were my dad's. He played for the Bakers. I wore them my last 2 years on the Hawks. So basically you wore whatever. They were looking for $800 was the goal to cover everyone. That helmet on the left with the navy wings is $300 itself. And that shoulder pads got to be what, 150, 200? So that's where we've gone. There were 30 kids on varsity, 30 kids on JV, which is a good number for a first-year program. In the fourth year of operation under Coach Fred Braun, the Hawks won their first championship. Quite an accomplishment for an upstart program. They would win again in '68 under Coach Braun, and also in '68 the Peewees. In the first year of being a sanctioned organization, because in the beginning, the Peewees, you would just come into a room, my dad would tell me the story, and you would play you would play you, and you would play you, and sometimes if you were good, nobody wanted to play you. So my dad's pushing, and I'll show you the picture of his coaches that he took with him. They got it to be a league, part of the league. Sort of like what we've done now with the taxi program, which is the kids that are in first and second grade. We won it we were 8-0. We won the last game against the team from Egg Harbor who had illegal players, but we still won the game. My father was the coach. I was a member of that team along with Coach Bobby Federico, who's still coaching to this day. He's been here for the last 21 years as the head coach. My dad was also the coach of the first JV championship in 1972. Frank Teresi kicked a drop kick to win the game 9-7 at Bader Field. And I remember my cousin Donnie was the center, and he looked, normally Teresi would kick it extra points, but it was on the hash, and Frank had to line himself up with the goalpost, and my cousin Donnie looked through his legs, and he told my father, "I can't see him." And my father said, turn and look. And he kicked it from 24 yards out at Bader Field, and they won the championship. JV then won 3 more years in a row to set up a great run. My dad was the coach in 73, then Nick Shalanti took over for the 74, 75, and 79 teams. My dad had gone up to Varsity, and then because he was coaching at St. Joe, he went back down to JV, and in 80, we went on to win the championship then. We had given up only 13 points that year. In 85, it was Nick Shalanti again. Mr. Curcio led the team in 91 to a title. And in 99, Rod Kramer Jr., whose father was an assistant on the 62 and the 68 championship team, was the leader of that. Dave Maimone, the current JV coach, was the boss in 07 and then again in 22, 2 years ago. The Peewee won in 68, as I said, led by my dad. Also in 70 and 71. Lee Chapin was the man in a 2-year run in 75 and 76. And then in 77, his brother Frank took over. So we're getting to the family theme. Rod Kramer also brought home a title in the Peewees for the last title. We were close last year in 1997. Peewees is the toughest division to win on because we're little Italian kids and not that much speed. Although we had some speed this year, and we lost 6-0 in the championship game to a team we had tied 0-0 two previous times. So it was a great experience for the kids. Varsity football is a stepping stone to high school, and have won 15 championships. Fred Braun, like I said, in 62 and 68. Nick Shalanti in 82, I'm sorry. Greg Silvestri took over in 1991, and in 92 won his first championship. Coach Silvestri then led his teams to on a 4-year run, and if I said his teams, he'd probably get mad, right, Wack? Yeah. Joe Hiltwine was on the staff, I was on the staff. Anybody else in the room was? There was 2 former players, Joey Hiltwine and my son Frank. More family. The Hawks were 42-2. And the only 2 losses were in a meaningless game that was played to avoid the division winners of having a bye. So you played your A team in the first half and your B team in the second half. They're the only 2 games that we lost out of 44. And from 96 to the end of the 2001 season, the Hawks were 56-4, with a finals loss in 96 and a semifinals loss in 97, and the other 2 losses that I mentioned. Greg's final record was 106, 23-3. In 2003, Bobby Federico took over, and Bob was on our staff in those 90s years too. He took over, and his team won titles in 04, 05, 09, 10, 14, and in the last 2 seasons, 22 and 23. Bob's record to date is 162 and 53. While winning is the goal, the most important thing is to make each kid understand what it is to be a football player. Ultimately, it's the same in life. If you do anything in life, you need to be a great teammate, and football is the ultimate team game. You need all your brothers to succeed just like in life. You'll need others to be successful. We feel as Hawks coaches, you need consistency in coaching. The entire organization needs to be stable. In 65 years, the Varsity had 9 coaches. 9. Most towns have 9 coaches in 9 years. Lou Ruberton was the first. Fred Braun, Jimmy Ferranto, who's my coach. I still see him. He delivers for Napa. Still call him coach. My dad, Nick Shalanti, myself, Frank V, Greg Silvesti, and Bobby Federico. That's stability. It's a volunteer organization, probably the best around when it comes to lending a hand. The original press box, which I'll show you later, was built in either 88 or 89. It still stands today. Same as with the new box at William T. Capella, which is home to the Hawks today. It was built with volunteer donations, volunteer masons, volunteer carpenters. Whatever you did, you did. And if you didn't know what to do, you did something. The Hawks started at the Dust Bowl on Vine Street. And that was also the home to the Blue Devils, St. Joe, and the semi-pro team, the Bakers. Jimmy's laughing because he can remember. We used to have a fire hose and you wet it down. It was all dirt. If you dropped your mouthpiece, I know I didn't dare ask my father to go rinse it off because he would not let you. They called that home until 1982 when we went down the lake park. We were out in the outfield, and it was a heck of a home field advantage. Part of the infield was still there. Teams didn't like to be tackled on the infield, so you knew the wide side was there. They're running to the grass side. Except for the 2 years that Mr. Capaferri, who was also a coach with us, Bobby Cap, he decided he wanted to put some sod down. So it was nice, but it wasn't home. It wasn't home. We called that home until 2017, when Capella became home again, thanks to the town of Hammonton, town council, and the Board of Education collaborating along with the hard work of everyone. Russ Dussman was the president. Clark Habermel, sitting back there, was the vice president. Dave Maimone is the treasurer, and AJ Mento is the secretary. Everyone rallied once again. There's a big sign down there. I didn't take a picture. I forgot. How many names are on that, Clarky? 35, 40?
At least 50.
It's like 50 names of people that helped. Companies, individuals, everyone. Everyone, once again, who was asked to do something, did something. Donated materials, time, expertise, like I just said, to the project. That's a great part of this group and the town, the way they rally around each other. We've always had great support in all phases of the Hawks. Our cheer squad, I can remember when we played in the late 60s, early 70s, the girls took the losses just as bad as we did. We have great stand mothers. They're people that run the stand. We have one here right now is probably, in my humble opinion, the best one we've ever had. Because, I mean, we've had good ones, but she's out there, Dawn Weiss. She's out there for practice, games, flag football, whatever it is, Dawn's there. And mostly by herself. I think she doesn't like to complicate things. She's awesome. She's the most important person in the organization, in my opinion. Where am I? The stand is the lifeblood in season. Without the stand, we don't make things. Pre-seasons, it's the chicken barbecue. I forget what year it was, probably 93. They came up with an idea of having a chicken barbecue, and now it's a staple.
We were worse than broke.
Huh? Yeah.
We were worse than broke.
Right, we were worse than broke. Back in the day, we got one football per team, per year. And if the ball got wet, that was too bad. You tried whatever you could, but we used to raise money by selling window stickers. It's called Buck a Year. Back the Hawks, Buck a Year booster. You would stick it on your window, your back window, whatever. It was $1. And I don't know how much we made, but it was it. I think the barbecue raises between $15,000 and $18,000 a year, and the price is still pretty good, and the chicken is unbelievable. The Hawks are a generational organization. Many current leaders, coaches have ties to grandparents, great-grandparents, and even if you manage to retire, you're really not allowed. Our president, Clark Habermel's grandfather coached with my dad. And I know, and I hope I don't miss people. I mean, I'm just going to talk. Rod Kramer, who retired a couple years ago, his dad coached with Fred Braun on the first championship team. Anthony Mento, who was the father of our treasurer, AJ, was the president at one time. My dad coached. I retired a couple times, and now coach again. My son is a varsity coach, and my 2 grandsons play on Peewee this past year, just to name a few. The Hawks are a family. We always try to stick together. We have lost a few young coaches to accidents. Julio Rodriguez was taken from us in 2004, and we honor him with a sign that is up during the season in which the varsity boys touch before going out on the field before the game. I coached Julio, not only on Hawks, but I coached Julio in high school. And the story I could tell about Julio is when he was a sophomore, we were short freshman players, and Julio asked if he could play freshman to make himself better. Nowadays, you don't see that. Kid that's a sophomore wants to be starting on varsity. And Julio was an average player. Julio played freshman. And by the time Julio was a senior, he was a starting corner, ran plays in at wide out, and intercepted a pass in the championship game. And that's what I could say about Julio. Last year we lost Jason Crowder to an accident and honored his family with a Hawks jersey, a plaque, pregame, with a nice ceremony. I hope I can get through this one. My grandson is a cancer survivor. During his fight, the Hawks made T-shirts, hoodies in his honor. He was the captain during the year, even though he didn't play. He would go out in street clothes. And I know that Coach Fred Weiss was the taxi coach then, and he really appreciated that. But that's how Hawks family is, your family. Everybody remained the same. During the year, he couldn't play, did the coin flip during a varsity game, and they said some words about him. And that game had an orange ribbon for leukemia painted on the field. That was put together by the board of directors led by Clark Habermel and Mike Shibuya, AJ Mento, and Dave Maimone. I believe Michael painted it free-handed. Michael's like MacGyver. Leadership starts at the top. Being the president isn't an easy job. I was the president. Clark does a great job. He's more diplomatic than I am, but I guess it's 2024, so he has to be. From Mr. Richardson, who was the original president, Lou Lamada, who was the president for I don't know how many years. I know he was the president right after Mr. Richardson, and I know he was the president. I think I might have been his vice president at one time. Pistol Rainier was a president. Anthony Mento, Bob Lloyd was the president for a while. Myself, Joe Hiltwine followed in my footsteps, even though I told him don't do it. Russell Dustman, and it's a great honor to head this organization. We have had many ex-players that come back to coach, and always have. Players, coaches that have started there, also gone to high school, even to college to coach. Pat Lancetta was an assistant with me. I sent him to scout one day. He didn't know where Moss Mill Road was. True story. And now he's at Rowan. He has a shot to become the head coach at Rowan. I believe he has a good shot because he's a hard worker, he's a good man, and I just hope he gets it. Pete Lancetta, who spent 26 years at Hammonton and now is at the Prep, played for the Hawks. His nickname was the Flea. My father gave him that name. Jim Razza, the president coach, played there. Greg Silvesti and Junior and Matt Silvesti all played Hawks and coached high school and Hawks. Big Greg was a head coach for many years and coached at Hammonton. Clark coaches at the Prep. Mike Shabilia coached at Hammonton for 23 years, and now he dabbles at the Prep. We'll put it like that. There's a guy in the room, I didn't know he was coming, Todd Sawecki. He's the ex-player. He coached 2 teams. He's trying to outdo me. He coached Varsity and he coaches our freshmen. Is that right? Okay. My son played and coached for the Hawks. Coached at Ocean City for 13 years and now is in his 2nd year back at Hammonton, although he still teaches there. Brian Gazzara, who coached here for how many years? About 6 or 8 JV staff. Now he's going to coach with Todd on the freshman level. Dave Maimone, who started in 1994, has been the head JV coach since 2007. He went the other way. He was the high school coach first, then he went back to the Hawks. And he's been the treasurer. He's dedicated a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and given us a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Fred Weiss is the Peewee coach and was on the 76 Peewee team that won the championship. Jimmy Curcio coached in the 90s. Jimmy Curcio coached with me in 94 and 95. He coached my son. He can't leave either. He just can't leave. Now he's the taxi coach, and he doesn't have any kids. And that's what makes this organization what it is. We've had kids. You waited for your kid to go by, and then you stayed. Bobby's the varsity coach, Federico. Played for the Hawks with me in '68. Coached with me 1 year in the mid '80s, and then he got a job at the electric company, which didn't allow him to coach. And then he came back in '89 as an assistant. Took over in 2003, and so that's longevity. Dawn Weiss, like I said, is the most important person in the Hawks family. Runs the stand. Most important. Most important. In 2021, the Hawks started summer flag football program to grow the interest in football and to try to get more kids to be introduced to the great games of football and play tackle. There's an example right there. I didn't know he was coming. He played flag. Then he decided he was going to play tackle. He started for us at tight end. That's Sutsy. Cole Sutz started at tight end, and then when somebody decided that they didn't want to play anymore, became a safety and intercepted a pass in a semifinal game. So that's what this flag program has done. Along with that, this year we've added girls program to it to go hand in hand with the high school flag program that is growing. Now I'd like to go to the presentation. I hope I didn't forget. There's 2 ex-quarterbacks in the room. Joey Hiltwine, who I coached in '94 and '95. And Joey was a quarterback at high school from when he was a junior and senior year. Great leader. He was the quarterback for those in '98 and '99 teams who only lost the games. Like Coach Silvestri said, we never lost a game in anger. Those 2 games that we have to play, just so we didn't get a bye, were the only 2 games that had Joey as a quarterback. We lost.
How do you remember?
That's why you were a good quarterback, because you had no. Oops, Jesus. The other quarterback I have is Herb Story. He was a tight end, and our backup quarterback got hurt. And Coach Sylvester, I was the quarterback coach, and said, "You got to find a quarterback. We need a B team quarterback." And I said, "All right." And I looked around. Herbie was, I wouldn't say the most athletic, but
I wouldn't either.
okay. Herbie was the best choice. And Herbie ended up throwing the ball his second year for a lot of yards, led us. We became a little bit more open passing. Played at Hammonton High School. Still one of the only guys could throw 15-yard dig route, very good, and went on to play at college. So there's a guy who went from tight end to quarterback. They're good people and good leaders. And did I miss anybody in the room? All right. These are our. This is in the office at the field house. I'll show you that later. That's the list of our championships, except the 2023 for the varsity is not up there. I forgot to mention that I believe it was 3 years ago, the Atlantic County Junior Football League sort of went off course, didn't follow bylaws. They were going to become an unlimited team, and you know how we are as Italians, and we don't have big kids, so we didn't really want to do that. So 6 teams succeeded, whatever the word is, and formed our own league, which now has grown to 8 teams. So, and the Atlantic County Junior Football League is now defunct because it's just hard for little kids. Like my son Frank and Joey they claimed they were 100 pounds when they were 13, played corner. Now imagine if they were playing corner at 100 pounds and you have an unlimited player at 220 pounds. We can't do that. And Clark and I and Frank and all the board members decided that we're not going to do that. We're not putting our kids in that jeopardy. And that's why we formed this league. It's a small league, but it's growing, but everybody abides by the bylaws. Dedication starts here. That's one of the signs in our field house. It was probably there when you guys were there, right? Mm-hmm. Obstacles are those frightful things you see when you fail. To focus on your goals. For every obstacle, there's a solution. Over, under, around, or through. Which route are you taking? That's how you have to be in life, not only in football. It's a life lesson. There's the varsity one. Excuse me. The varsity ones, except for the 2023. They're the JV level. These are all in the thing, and this is in the office. And that's the Peewee level. This was the original press box built on blood, sweat, and tears. My son did the H. I think did Clarky help you, or he held the ladder?
A lot of people.
A lot of people help. That sits out there at the lake park. That's the back. That was done by, I forget her name. She did a wonderful job. It's beautiful. That hawk was
The enemy again.
the Anna Mangano. I don't even know what she charged us. Whatever it was not worth it. I mean, it was worth more than what she charged. Put it that way. What?
It wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough.
There you go.
This is the staff that my father took up to tell them that we're playing in this league, and this is the schedule. That's my dad. That's Mr. Frank Lennox. He was a state trooper. That's Jimmy Migliaccio. That's my Uncle Joe. That's Steve Calashone, who played with my dad on the Bakers. His hands were about this big. His fingers were about this wide. Great man, gentle giant. And that's Clark's Habermel's grandfather. They were together probably most of the times with my dad until I joined the staff. This is some of the stuff in the papers. This was after our 3rd championship. The Ventnor team, I remember Coach Sylvester and I went over to talk about getting weighed, and one of the assistant coaches, it was a cold day. What was it that day, Wack? About 40. Wind was blowing. The coach said, Guys better keep the bus warm because the starters are going to need to go on it because we're going to run you off the field. If you can see the score, it was 30-8. And I believe they scored 8 late. This is congratulation letter from Dave Salvo, who is the superintendent of schools in Middle Township. And congratulations on winning the title. From a former Hawk, I'm proud to see that the program continues success. The town of Hammonton should be proud of the Hawks program. I know I am. Good luck next season. And he signed the one to Greg, proud Hawks player. That's a picture of current board member Ray Scipione and myself with the beard, with black hair and not gray hair, sending in a play. That's Joey Hiltwine in the championship game. We played the championship game a couple times at William T. Capella when it was just a high school field, and that was a real thrill for the boys. We won that game 8-6. It was tied at 6. We had a kicker, Pat Derringer, walked up, kicked it through. We took the win. That's from that game. That's Matt Silvesti, Greg's son. That's Mike Long, who's now a realtor. He wanted to buy a house, call Mike. That's Jason Comas, Winslow, Anthony Coya, John Fognano. This is Coach Hiltwine, his defensive backs. He's talking to him. That's Chris Sacco. The numbers are backwards. That's Chris Sacco, the AD at Hammonton. That's James Christopher. That's Lee Thompson, who coaches Little League teams and travel teams. That's Jason Comas, and that's my son. This is the captains. This was Johnny Scipione's year. No? Who is that? Oh, Frankie Sacco. Okay. Frankie Sacco is a hard-working Mason. This kid is Anthony Young, who wanted a release from where he played and came and played with us. He's a professional boxer. I don't know what his record is, but he's a great kid. Great kid. This was the championship that started the first run. That's Coach Federico there. Over here, that's Coach Hiltwine. We just beat Northfield, who was also the favorite. I think that's Lee Thompson, if I'm not mistaken, catching the touchdown pass early in the game. That's Michael Mazzio. Michael Mazzio, who is a physical therapist and a pool installer, all at once. He was a good football player, really good football player. Is that James? James. Nick Castine. Rick Amos, who was in the Naval Academy. He still does naval work, and that's Jason Taylor. This was after the first championship that Coach Silvesti won. That's Ronnie Dorsey Sr.'s hat. We'll disregard that Cowboys thing. But that was always the thing that Coach Silvesti always liked to have on his highlight films or his thing, with the helmet in the air and all the boys in together raising their hands. Now this is the new scoreboard and the lights being put up at Capella, which with the help of the town we got done. There's the scoreboard. I believe M.O. Ruberton helped with that. That's our press box that was built by volunteers. This is the back of the concession stand. Right there where it says Hammonton Hawks now is the sign, the poster I was talking about that has all the volunteers' names. This is the front of the concession stand, all painted up. That's where Miss Dawn operates. That's the beginning of the thing. This is guys. Is that you on the track? No, you got a tag. Somebody has a tag there. That's our scoreboard. Rotary, Mr. De Laurentiis had donated money. He wanted it spent somehow in youth. And they donated the scoreboard through Rotary and Mr. De Laurentiis. This is our field in 2017 before the first game. I won't say who takes care of it, but we all paint it. like it says, in conjunction with town council and the school board, we returned back there. I know a lot of people were happy because if you played there in high school, you get chills just thinking that now. I played there. He never played there. Did you? When? Oh, freshman year, that's right. And sophomore. But now my grandson plays there. So it's great. That's from a drone of the H. He did the H. Well, he designs it. He's a math major, so that's why he knows all the angles. That's from the low view. And this is all done by us. All volunteers. That's the helmet. We changed the logo. We love to give the kids something else. They love to have different things. One year we painted an H, but somehow I got an I. That's the game I was talking about with, they honored Frankie at. Mike Shabilia did that ribbon freehanded. Freehanded. It's just, it's stunning. And other teams come in and they love it. They love the fact that the guy from, we also reach out to other towns. The guy from Absecon, they like their field. John, what's his last name? John Gorman has brain cancer. And when we were doing the Fight Like Frankie stuff, donations, their organization donated to us. So when John got sick, I called Clark and I said, we gotta do something. So what we did was sold all our old game jerseys that were just sitting and rotting. Like if you wanted your number, we wanted this 42, or whoever wanted your number, you came and bought it, you donated, what was it, 5, Dawn? 10, 20?
We sold them for 15 and we donated 5 or 10,
Right,
I think. I
Right,
forget.
so whatever it was, but there were people that paying, giving you 50 and say, here. What did we donate, 5,000 then?
I think so.
$5,000 to John, and they were like overwhelmed. And he, sad news, he just got another operation, but, I mean, that's the field house, which was an old, maintenance building, like supplies. We've done a lot of work in there. There's a TV for the boys to watch game films on. There's an office room that we meet in. That's my grandson. This is before he was diagnosed. That's our Hawk. Some of the kids from high school, the players come, they get in it, and they run around and excite the kids, the cheerleaders who, like I said, they're just as involved with the boys as the boys are. There we are in Buna, which Buna is now back in our league. Our cheerleaders are there. This was a championship game at Robert Capaferri Field. Before we had Capella, we used to play there because you can charge for the championship game, and we need more money, we make money off of it. You bid on the championship, you charge an admission, and the school lets us use the field for nothing. And the kids really, that's the field house that they're gonna run out of when they're, hopefully, when they're sophomore, juniors, and seniors. So they get to be where the boys that they idolize are. These are the JV and varsity cheerleaders and players in town council when they were honored in 2022. It was nice of the town to honor them, and it was nice of, I think there's probably everybody there, which is awesome. And there's Clark receiving the proclamation from Deputy Mayor Gribbons, and I can see Jonathan Olivo.
Yep.
He was a player, he played. Sam didn't play. They're the only two. Jonathan played for us. There are the boys and a few of the girls. This is the, we used to get jackets, but because they're the cost prohibitive, we've gone with the hoodies now. They're beautiful, but this is the taxi team. This was 2021. 20? No, was it? Frankie's got no hair. 2021. we took a picture, and you know, he didn't play that year, but I mean, look at the turnout. This is, what are we, taxis, first and second graders, and there's Miss Dawn right where she belongs. She's plus, not only she runs the stand, she's the team mom for Fred. This is a tradition that started way back. This is at the chicken barbecue. At about 7 o'clock in the morning, Donio Trucking brings the corn over, the kids shuck it, they bond. See, there's Peewee kids with varsity kids, they're all getting along, and that's what we try to promote. This is my son giving a coach's clinic. We changed our tackling technique to be safer, and he had a lot of experience with it, so he gave everybody a coaching clinic. And the red-headed kid, who do you think kid is that? That's Dawn's son. And Fred. This was after the championship game, and the point of this picture is, that's Michael Shabilia, who was, I don't know how many touchdowns he scored in the championship game. He's a stud. That's Mike's grandson Frank, and that's Gino. And there's a kid who just won a championship, 14-year-old kid hanging out with 7 and 8-year-old kids. And that's the family aspect. That's our new jerseys. We actually got a great deal on those jerseys. They're reversible jerseys, very nice, $50, and you have 2 jerseys. Basically, you pay $25 a jersey.
That's cool.
And that is the slideshow. I've been a Hawk from when I played in 66 to 71. I coached from 76 to 87. And again, from 94 to 2004, and once again, from 2000 to the present. Like I said earlier, you can't leave. It's in your blood. It's been my honor to tell you a little bit about our Hammonton Hawks family. I want to thank you, and I thank you all for showing coming, and I thank the Canoe Club, Mr. Parkhurst, Miss Debbie. I thank you all for having us here, and just to tell our story, and hopefully, in 10 years when we celebrate 75, how old will Gino be? Too old. Too old? Well, he's too young to have a kid. So I don't know if I'll still be coaching, but thank you very much.
Any questions?
Yeah, if you have any questions, I could try to answer them. I guess the only reason why I got asked to do this is because I'm old. But like I said, it's
I got something to say.
what?
Last week, I was working in Ventnor.
Yeah.
Some guy early in the morning comes up to me, asks me my name, where I'm from. I tell him Hammonton. Starts telling me stories about Galloway versus Hammonton. His last name was McGettigan, so I guess his family owned the bar on Route 9.
Right.
He was 63. He remembered LaSasso. Thought LaSasso was the one that was drop kicking the ball.
No, it was Teresi.
It was Frank
Teresi. Yeah.
And like that was one of his memories. Like this guy was completely obsessed with the town of Hammonton,
Right.
the Italians in the town of Hammonton. Like wanted to be a Hammontonian. I mean, it was like ridiculous, and he would not. Once he found that out, he would not leave me alone.
And
for age 3.
that's a lot of people, they admire the program. I mean, we've made enemies, but of course we've made a lot of great friends over the years. Yes, sir.
Drop kicker, wasn't your father the original drop kicker?
No, my father was a regular kicker,
Regular kicker, okay.
but he encouraged Frankie. Jimmy, did you play with him or no?
Yeah, I was on that team.
Yeah, he encouraged him to do it. They used to do it for extra points.
Well, he looked up the rule though.
Yeah, Mike Burns was the Brigantine head coach to JV, and he was a character because
Oh, yeah.
I used to go to the meetings after my dad would, when he started coaching at St. Joe, I sort of like took over for my dad, and he would tell me, Moose, because he would call me Little Moose, that kick, that was a punt. He goes, it was a punt. It was not a kick. And I said, Mike, I was there. I know. And Mike was also a police captain in Brigantine. So him and my father had a lot of things in common because they both were captains, they both were police officers, they both loved football, they both loved their towns. And I remember going with my dad to Mike's viewing, and I don't know where in Brigantine we were, but I know we were 4 blocks away in line waiting. My father said, we're waiting. I need to see his family. And I mean, like I said, you make enemies, but you also make friends. There's friends I have from Pleasantville. There's friends we had from Galloway, Northfield. There are people and friends, and there are people that you don't like who became jealous instead of, when you coach against people, like I said earlier when I stole that from Dan Russelman. Well, if you're a good coach, you steal stuff. So that's what you do. You take stuff from other coaches and make it your own. And that, we've done that in the past. We've had great relationships with a lot of people in the league, and he's following, and I hope my grandsons, I don't know what I hope for them. I hope by the time they're this age that there will be still football, because it's trending towards the other way. But like I said, we try to make it safe for the boys. We try to make it safe. We change our tackling techniques and tried for the better. Yes?
Is it true that, I don't know that much about football, okay? That there's a Hammonton style of football?
Yes, there is a Hammonton style.
That starts and
It
goes-
starts here.
Right?
You run the ball.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, sometimes we have to pass when we have guys. But you run, it's the run first,
Okay.
You basically, what we try to do is wear you down. So in the fourth quarter, it's like Joe Frazier, the boxer,
Yeah, I know.
would work on the body.
Right.
So we work on the body, and then in the fourth quarter, we hope we wear them down and we win the game. Because we're not the best athletes in the world, okay? We're tough, we're blue collar for the most part, we're hardworking kids, they buy into it. There was a time, were you there or no? You guys, did you go lift at Mark's?
No.
I think I was.
Right
Right after us.
Right after, probably in 2005, Mark Calabria owned the place in Sail Lake. He had machines there because he trained people. And our kids would go there to make themselves stronger. No lifting heavy weights, it was a machine, you're not gonna get hurt on a machine, but the kids bought in. Not only that they bought in to lifting, they bought in to being together. You're together, they went 1 day a week or 2 days a week, and they formed, and I have kids still that come up to me, you remember this, you remember that. I was just talking to Ray Scipione. You remember this, you remember that. I made him, he used to work for me, he used to wash cars. And we were running late one day. So I dropped him off at his house, I went to practice, and he came late. I said, Ray, you gotta run, you're late. And he looked at me, he said, you made me late. I didn't make you late, I dropped you off 10 minutes before practice. But that's the kind of bond that you still have. You still have.
So what was the difference in tackling technique? that you
Well,
taught?
when I played, you were taught to tackle with your face in the number.
Yeah.
And I got hurt pretty bad. Don't say nothing, Suds. I got hurt bad by tackling my face in the number. I never got my head up, and I got hurt. Then we were tackling with your head off to the side, in front. So you would tackle with your front, but you still would take a blow like this. Now you're going through the outside, the backside, and rolling. It's called a gator roll. Is that right? It's called a gator roll, which I didn't, him and I would argue. He coached at Ocean City, I coached at Hammonton. He would tell me all this stuff, and I said, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I won't tackle. I holler at kids. I preach to them to keep their heads up. I threaten them. I've thrown kids out of practice because they keep ducking their heads, and we sit there and we work on it. But once I really got into the nuts and bolts with it, I became convinced that that's the way. That even though if I want to tackle this guy and he's coming this way, I'm here, but I'm going to go low, I'm going to drop, and I'm going to gator roll. So I'm going to keep my head out of the game. So that's basically what the change is. And it's for the safer. And like, the helmets are better. That's not a, I was talking to somebody, that's not a flex helmet, but there are helmets that flex. The one with the stars was an original helmet. Like I said, we bought at Rice Hardware. And I actually wore my father's old Baker's helmet when I played my last year on Hawks. So the helmets have come a long way. Nothing's going to stop it, but it helps. So we're all about safety. You never want to see a kid down. Never, ever, ever. Especially what I went through. I get more mad at a kid when he has his head down, even if he makes the tackle. Well, I made the tackle. I don't care. You have to be safe. There's a safe way to do things. And that's, we're all about that. And he put, what was it, about an hour and a half, right? Hour and a half clinic. So, these kids are like our kids. Like our grandkids and our whatever. Like our family. So, that's the Hammonton way. Run the football. Except Herbie. Herbie doesn't like that. We good? Thanks again for having us. Thanks again for showing up. The Hawks family, thank you. And Historical Sire, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice, thank you.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Hopefully I'll be here in 75.
What about it? Now? Yeah.